I've been a trucker for 27 years, long enough to know that some roads aren't on any map and some places aren't meant for stopping. It was the winter of 2014 when I learned that lesson the hard way. I was hauling refrigerated cargo through northern Wyoming on a stretch of Highway 16 that cuts through the mountains like a scar. The night was cold enough to make the diesel feel like syrup, and the wind was slicing through the cab like a razor. Around 2:30 a.m., the snow started coming down heavy, and visibility dropped to almost nothing. My GPS froze, and the CB went dead, just static whispering through the speakers. I saw a faint light ahead, the neon glow of what looked like a small truck stop. No name, just a sign that flickered open 24 hours. I'd been driving for almost 12 hours straight, so I pulled in. The parking lot was nearly empty, except for one old Peterbilt with its headlights off. The air felt heavy when I stepped out. Not cold, heavy. Like the air itself didn't want to move. Inside, the place was quiet. Too quiet. No music, no chatter, not even the buzz of a cooler. A woman stood behind the counter wearing a faded uniform that might have been white decades ago. She smiled without showing her teeth and said, "Coffee's fresh." I didn't ask for coffee, but she poured a cup anyway and slid it across the counter. The steam smelled strange. Not bad, just metallic. As I sat down at one of the booths, I noticed the pictures on the wall. Dozens of truckers smiling beside their rigs, all under the same neon sign I'd seen outside. But the photos were old. The trucks looked like models from the 70s and 80s. The strangest part? Every one of the truckers had the same background, the same angle, the same light, even the same exact snow falling around them. Then I heard it. A voice from the CB at the counter. It crackled. Then a man's voice said, "Don't drink it." I froze. The woman didn't react. She just kept smiling. The CB hissed again, "Don't drink the coffee. Leave now." My heart started hammering. I glanced toward the door, and that's when I noticed something outside. Through the fogged-up window, I saw a man standing next to my truck. He was staring straight at me. No coat, no hat. Just standing there in the snow like it didn't bother him. His eyes were too wide, too still. I got up, muttering something about paying later, and headed for the exit. The woman didn't move. She just said, "You've been here before, haven't you?" I didn't answer. When I stepped outside, the snow had stopped completely. The lot was empty. No other trucks, no footprints, no man. Just mine. I got in, locked the doors, and started the engine. The clock on my dashboard said 4:17 a.m., but my phone said 11:42 p.m. The GPS was working again, showing I was still 20 miles away from any rest stop or gas station. As I pulled back onto the highway, I looked in the mirror. The neon sign behind me wasn't flickering anymore. It was bright red, glowing steady, and the letters no longer said, "Open 24 hours." They said, "Welcome back." I didn't sleep for 2 days after that. When I finally stopped at a real truck stop in Casper, I asked around if anyone knew a diner near mile 72 with a red neon sign. Every single driver said the same thing. There used to be one, but it burned down back in 1983. Nobody survived. I went online later trying to find any mention of it. There were old photos, black and whites of the place, and right there on the wall, in one of those pictures, was a man sitting in a booth. My booth, same jacket, same cap, same look of exhaustion on his face. The problem was, the photo was dated December 1983, and the man in that picture looked exactly like me. So when I tell rookies never to stop between mile 70 and 73 on Highway 16, I'm not trying to scare them. I'm trying to save them. Because if you see that red neon sign glowing through the snow, no matter how tired you are, no matter how much you need to rest, keep driving, don't stop, not there, not ever again. I was hauling lumber through New Mexico that night, a long stretch of Highway 54, cutting through the desert like a cracked vein. No towns for nearly 100 miles, no lights except the faint pulse of my dashboard. The kind of road where you start talking to yourself just to prove you're still real. The CB radio was my only company. Channel 19, static humming like a restless ghost. Around 1 a.m., a faint voice slipped through the noise. Breaker 19, anybody copy? I clicked the mic. Copy that. This is Road Ranger. What's your 20? No answer, just static. Then again, clearer this time. Southbound, mile marker 143. Need help, please. The voice was shaky, like the guy was crying. I asked what kind of help he needed. He said something about his rig flipped over. Said his legs were trapped. The signal cut in and out, but I caught a few words. Dark, cold, headlights coming. I knew that stretch of road well. Mile marker 143 was flat and straight, no turn sharp enough to roll a truck. But the voice didn't sound fake. And truckers don't joke about wrecks, so I turned around. The desert was pitch black, no moon, no stars. Just my headlights carving tunnels of light through the dust. When I reached the area, I slowed down. Nothing. No smoke, no skid marks, no wreckage. Just wind whispering over the sand. I keyed the CB. Breaker 19, this is Road Ranger. I'm at mile 143. Where are you, buddy? Silence. Then faintly, behind you. I spun around so fast, I nearly dropped the mic. Nobody there, just the empty desert. My headlights caught something, though. Tire tracks that led off the road into the sand. Against my better judgment, I followed them. The tracks ended near an old rusted trailer half buried in the dunes. It looked like it hadn't moved in decades. The windows were broken, the paint eaten away. My radio crackled again. Please, it's so cold. The voice was clearer now, like he was right next to me. But I hadn't touched the mic. I opened the cab door and stepped out. The air was freezing, colder than it had any right to be in New Mexico. I followed the tracks to the trailer. When I looked inside, my stomach turned. There was a wrecked truck cab, half torn apart, its roof crushed and a body still inside, or what was left of one. The man was wearing a reflective jacket, the same kind I was wearing, and right there, lying on the dashboard, was a CB mic identical to mine. The radio in my truck started hissing again, louder this time. You found me! Then static. Then my own voice came through. Breaker 19, anybody copy? Southbound, mile 143. Need help. I froze. The sound was me. Same tone, same breathing, same words I'd heard an hour ago. I ran back to my truck and slammed the door. The radio was still transmitting, looping my own voice over and over. I ripped the mic from the socket, but the static didn't stop. It just grew louder until it drowned out everything. The engine, the wind, even my heartbeat. Then in between bursts of static, I heard whispering. Not one voice, dozens, all speaking at once. They said, keep driving. And then, silence. When I finally got control of my breathing, I looked out the window. The trailer was gone. Completely. No wreck, no tire tracks, no sign of anything ever being there. By the time I reached the next truck stop, the sun was rising. I told another driver what happened, expecting him to laugh, but he didn't. He just looked pale and said, you shouldn't mess with that stretch. Mile 143's been haunted since 92. Driver named Hank Taylor died there after calling for help on the CB. They never found the wreck, just his radio still transmitting. I tried to shrug it off, told myself it was exhaustion, a trick of the mind. But that night, in my sleeper cab, I woke up around 3 a.m. The radio was off, completely unplugged. And from the dark of the dashboard, a voice whispered softly, thanks for stopping, Hank. My name isn't Hank. It never was. But every time I pass mile marker 143, my radio turns itself on, even if it's unplugged. And I hear that same weak voice asking for help, the one I'll never answer again. Because whatever's out there, it's still calling. I've heard a lot of trucker ghost stories. Most are just that, stories, but the one about the Hollow Creek truck stop always got under my skin. Every veteran driver knows the name, but no one admits to having been there. They just shake their head, light another cigarette, and change the subject. I didn't believe in any of that until last winter, when my rig broke down on I-80 outside Nebraska, in the middle of a snowstorm so thick it erased the world. My GPS was spinning, the road signs were buried, and my fuel gauge was kissing empty. I was miles from civilization when I saw a dim orange glow through the whiteout, a sign that read Hollow Creek, 1 mile ahead. The letters flickered like dying fireflies, and my gut told me to keep driving. But frostbite and an empty tank aren't negotiable, so I turned. The road leading in was narrow, lined with pine trees heavy with snow. When the truck stop finally appeared, it looked like a mirage. A single building, half diner, half repair shop, surrounded by a few trucks buried to their windshields in snowdrifts. Their engines weren't running, no lights, no movement, just shapes swallowed by ice. I parked near the entrance and killed the engine. The silence hit me like a punch. Not even the ticking of cooling metal, no wind, no distant highway hum. Just silence so thick it made my ears ring. Inside, the diner lights were on, but dim. There were people inside, or at least I thought they were. 4 of them sitting at different booths, not eating, not talking, just staring at their plates. The waitress looked up as I came in. She was pale, with eyes too wide, like she hadn't blinked in years. "Coffee's hot," she said, the same way someone says turn back now. I sat at the counter. The coffee tasted off, not bad, just wrong, like it had been brewed from something that wasn't water. I asked if there was a mechanic around, told her my rig was dying. She pointed toward the back door without a word. The air grew colder the closer I got to that door. My boots crunched on something that didn't sound like tile, more like thin ice cracking. When I pushed the door open, I found myself in a massive garage lit by a single buzzing bulb. And that's when I realized what I'd stepped on. Shards of frozen glass. The walls were covered in old photographs of trucks and their drivers, dozens of them. Every one of the drivers was standing beside the same truck. My model, same paint, same number on the side. And in the corner of each photo, barely visible, was the diner's neon sign. Hollow Creek. A noise made me jump, the unmistakable sound of a diesel engine trying to turn over. My truck. I ran outside, but the snow had stopped completely. The sky was pitch black, and the lot looked different. The trucks that were half buried before were now spotless, lined up neatly with their lights on. Their license plates were old, rusted designs from the 80s and 90s. Then I saw him. A man standing next to my rig, wearing my jacket. I swear to God it was me. Same face, same expression, even the same scar on my hand. He looked right at me, then climbed into the cab and started the engine. I yelled, but my voice didn't make a sound. When I ran to the door, there was no cab, just snow, undisturbed. The diner door creaked open behind me. The waitress stood there, smiling faintly. "Took you long enough," she said. "We've been waiting." I backed away, shaking my head. "What is this place?" I asked. She tilted her head like a confused child. "You already know." The lights flickered once, twice, then went out. In the blackness I heard engines rumbling, dozens of them, all starting at once. Headlights blinked on one by one, cutting through the snow, facing the road. When the light came back, the diner was gone. The trucks, the people, everything. I was standing alone in the middle of a frozen field. My rig was half buried in snow, dead battery, no tracks leading in or out. I radioed for help until the mic went hot. A state trooper found me 8 hours later, frostbitten and incoherent. He said I was 20 miles from the highway, no road leading to where I was. He asked how I'd ended up there. I couldn't answer. Weeks later, when I got my truck back from the impound lot, I noticed something taped to the dashboard. A photo, old, faded, but still clear enough to see me standing in front of the Hollow Creek diner, holding a cup of coffee, smiling. The date stamped on the bottom corner read February 3rd, 1987. I wasn't even born until 1989. Now, every time I drive at night and see neon lights through the snow, I grip the wheel tighter and keep going. Because maybe Hollow Creek doesn't stay in one place. Maybe it shows up for whoever's tired enough, desperate enough, or lost enough to see it. And if you ever find yourself on an empty highway with no fuel and no signal, and a sign flickers ahead saying, Hollow Creek, 1 mile ahead, don't stop. Don't even slow down. Because if you do, you won't just lose your way, you'll join the others. And at the next storm, someone else will see the lights. Every trucker has a road they'll never drive again. But some roads never let you leave. If you made it this far, maybe you've seen something too. Share your story in the comments, and remember, the road always listens.